What's up, psychedelic investors? My name's James, and you're watching The Psychedelic Investor, your number one news source for psychedelic stocks and everything MindMed. Today, we have a little bit of a different episode for you. Usually we talk about all the things that I am excited for when it comes to MindMed, but today, we're going to the dark side. In this episode, we'll discuss the very real risks involved in investing in MindMed. If you're the type of investor who invests based on hype or who rage quits a video whenever something less than positive is said, then this video is probably not for you. In fact, I'll give you a moment to leave. So, for those of us who remain, congratulations, you have the stomach to navigate the choppy waters on the way to Yacht Week. And don't be mistaken, these will be rough seas indeed. Now, I want to be clear, I'm not saying that MindMed is a bad investment or that you shouldn't invest in them. After all, it is the second largest position in my portfolio. But before you can confidently invest in a company, you need to understand all the risks you are taking by deciding to put your money into it. And I came to the realization recently that perhaps I've been focusing too much on the amazing potential an investment in MindMed has without giving you, my loyal viewers, an adequate representation of the risks. That ends today. So buckle up as I navigate you through the seas of risk involved in an investment in MindMed. Enjoy the video. So, as we all know, MindMed, ticker symbol MMED on the Canadian NEO market and MMEDF on the American OTC market, is a high-risk, high-reward company. We have covered before many of the programs that have the potential to give us high reward, like their LSD neutralizer and 18MC to treat addiction, but today we discuss the risks. Something that I hope all of my viewers understand is that MindMed is not a sure thing. Yes, I believe that in the long term they will succeed, but it is not inevitable. There are lots of ways the company could fail, and you need to be cognizant of these. First and foremost is if their medicines don't work. When it comes to MindMed's long-term success, it almost entirely rests on their medicines passing through the 3 phases of clinical trials. If their medicines aren't effective, the company goes under. End of story. And though I fully believe these medicines will work, MindMed is too early in the process to really make definitive statements. And as a brief and overly simplified recap, in order for a drug to be approved for use, it needs to go through the clinical trial process in which Phase 1 tests for basic safety, Phase 2 tests the effectiveness in treating a specific malady in a small group of people, and Phase 3 tests the effectiveness in a much larger population. Therefore, to be able to say with any level of certainty that a drug is or will be effective, it at a minimum needs to have completed Phase 2 trials. And folks, we're just not there yet. None of MindMed's drugs have yet completed Phase 2A trials, let alone Phase 2B. Though their project treating anxiety with LSD, Project Lucy, is finishing up Phase 2A trials now, and we should see some data on that soon. But to be clear, so far, we have not been shown any proof that any of their drugs even work, let alone that they will be able to sell them. Though, again, sometime this year we should get Phase 2A data for Lucy and some Phase 1B data on other trials. So this risk factor may lessen sometime soonish. And I just want to be clear, I am not saying that there is any reason to think that these trials will fail. We just need to wait and see the data before we can say with any certainty that they won't. I really hope it is not the case, but there is a chance that these results will be less than stellar, and MindMed will have to go back to the drawing board. And this, of course, would both hurt the company and its shareholders. In their 2019 end-of-year discussion document, the company said this: if we experience delays in clinical testing, we'll be delayed in commercializing our product candidates, and our business may be substantially harmed. We cannot predict whether any clinical trials will begin as planned, will need to be restructured, or will be completed on schedule or at all. Our product development costs will increase if we experience delays in clinical testing. Significant clinical trial delays could shorten any periods during which we may have the exclusive right to commercialize our product candidates, or allow our competitors to bring products to market before us, which would impair our ability to successfully commercialize our product candidates and may harm our financial condition, results of operations, and prospects. And just as a side note here, MindMed did recently delay the start of Phase 2A trials for 18MC and LSD microdosing to treat ADHD by several months. This isn't the end of the world, and they also have moved up the timeline for other projects, but it is something to be cognizant of. Again, the point I want to make here is that these drugs are at a very early stage. anything can happen. On average, it takes 6 to 7 years for drugs to complete all the necessary clinical trials, and even if I believe that MindMed will complete their trials in a much more expedited fashion, this is not a guarantee. Furthermore, only 14% of drugs make it through the FDA-regulated trials. Again, based on the wider literature supporting the thesis that psychedelic medicines are effective in treating mental health maladies, I am betting that MindMed's treatments will be part of that 14%, but there is no guarantee. And here it is important to note that even if psychedelic medicines are destined to change pharmacology forever, there is no guarantee that MindMed will be the company to do that. They are leading the race right now, but we still have most of the track to finish. Maybe they'll end up being the BlackBerry of the psychedelics world. So, just to recap this risk, in order for MindMed to be a successful investment, their clinical trials must be successful. At this time, it is just too early to say with any certainty that their trials will be successful, and thus we as investors are speculating that they will be. If their trials fail, this company goes to zero. End of story, point finale. Again, this year we should get some data on their phase 2A trial looking at LSD to treat anxiety, Project Lucy, and next year we should get even more results. If these trials come back positive, which I both hope and expect them to, then this risk factor will be somewhat mitigated. But until that happens, this risk remains very real indeed. Another risk comes from the potential, or lack thereof, for long-term profitability. Long-term, in order to survive, the company will need to have a substantial revenue and eventually a profit. At the moment, though this is normal for biotechs at the stage MindMed is at, the company has zero revenue. If everything goes perfect for the company, it probably still won't have revenue come 2023 or 2024. But even assuming that the drug trials go well, MindMed will then need to scale up their production capabilities and training protocols, which could take years, and there is no guarantee that the scaling process will go smoothly. Basically, even if the drug trials go swimmingly, there is a long road ahead towards profitability. Luckily, right now MindMed has enough financing for a couple years to come, but eventually the company will need to start making a profit. If they don't, the company will fail. Another issue that needs to be discussed, though it has less to do with MindMed the company, and more to do with MindMed the stock, is volatility. If you are a MindMed shareholder or a potential investor, you need to understand that it is not just smooth sailing from here on out. You should expect the stock to behave erratically and move wildly in either direction. Right now, we are sitting at near all-time highs, and while it is possible the stock could spike higher, it is equally possible that it could rapidly decrease. Elon Musk said recently that the stock market is like a manic depressive person deciding how much your company is worth, and he is dead on. Right now, the company's small size is a part of the reason we see so much volatility, but the hype also plays a role. Once the company gets bigger, however, we will also start seeing significant short interests in the company, which will make the stock ever more volatile. If you can't handle the huge swings in stock price, this may not be the company for you. You are going to need a strong mentality not to bail when you see the stock is down 30% in a week or something similar. Another distinct possibility, and though I don't believe it will happen, it does need to be vocalized, is that MindMed's stock price could be as high now as it will be for years to come. As of right now, MindMed's stock is at a near all-time high, more than 10x of its IPO less than a year ago. There is always risk at buying at all-time highs. I do believe that in 5 years the stock will be significantly higher than it is now, but there is a very real chance that it could go lower and stay lower for years. You see this in exciting companies all the time. The company IPOs, there's lots of hype, the stock skyrockets, and then falls back down to earth, and then stays there for years as the realities of running a business and scaling up production cause investors to lose interest. If this does happen, and MindMed's medicines are proven to be effective and they scale up distribution, then a few years from now the stock could explode again. So for long-term investors like me, this possibility doesn't bother me too much, but it will take an iron will to keep in the company year after year if this is the case. And again, this might not happen, but you need to understand it is a very real possibility. So a quick recap, some very real risks exist for a MindMed investment. This is not a sure thing. First, we do not know yet if their clinical trials will work. If none do, the company goes to zero. And I don't think this will happen, but you need to understand this. Second, long-term, MindMed will need to become profitable. Even if their medicines work, there's no guarantee that they'll be able to transform what is basically their science experiments into a profitable business. I am bullish that they'll be able to, but it will take lots of things going right. Third, this stock has been and will continue to be volatile. Be thick-skinned. There is a very real possibility we could see huge dips in MindMed's stock price, and it is also possible that the stock could drop and then stagnate for a couple years. Again, if I had to bet, I'd say this won't happen, but it is a very real possibility. One thing that I really want to stress/suggest, though of course I'm not a financial advisor and this isn't financial advice, I would strongly suggest against going all in on MindMed. Of course, if it works, you could make an obscene amount of money, but there are very real risks if you go this route. I am a Super Bowl in MindMed, and I only have about 11% of my portfolio in this company. You have to be financially responsible when dealing with your investments, and when you go in big on a high reward stock like MindMed, you have to understand the risks. So, if you made it this far into the video, I'd like to thank you for not rage quitting and ask your opinion on the risks of investing in MindMed. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And if you're just not ready to part ways yet, check out some of the videos you see on your screen. This is James from The Psychedelic Investor, signing out. I'll see you next time.